Hello and welcome back to my garage. Today's video is a real old video. I have it laying around for I think almost 2 years. The reason is that I wanted to try something else and it didn't work out the way I wanted to work out. So the other day I thought I can do two things: make the best of it and post it, or delete it. And I choose the first option. So if the audio is not really there, if the video is not really there, you know at least that is, my older setup. This video series is about this car, a Alfa Romeo 75. It isn't a special car. I know it has the special wheel arches and stuff like that, but it is bolted on later. This is a 1.6 injection. It belongs to a friend of mine named Kevin, and Kevin has this car now for a long time. Kevin wanted to race this car, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only problem is that he has the vision syndrome, and that is something a lot of project owners have. And the problem with that is you really have to manage your budget and your time. And most of the time we cannot do that. To be honest, I am guilty of it myself. But I think I'm a little bit different in that. But that's another story. Problem with those people is that they start on a project and, most of the time they strip it whole down and try to build a car from that. And the problem with those project cars is that people don't have fun anymore. They can't drive it, so they get stranded, and that's where Kevin is at. So the advice I give to those people that want to start a project is buy a car that is running, or you can drive the car. That's the baseline you have to go with. I know we want everything. We want the body kit, we want new paint, we want new interior, and we want to do the engine and stuff like that. What you want is a drivable car and do stuff to the car what you can do in a weekend, maybe 2 weekends. But after those weekends, that the car is drivable again. So let's say you want to lower your car, you can do that in a day. Next weekend you are going to install some new seats, you can do it in a weekend. Next up is brake upgrades, maybe something to do with the engine, but you have to manage that. And my rule of thumb is everything you can do in 1 or 2 weekends. And not going to strip down the whole car because you want to make it a race car or a show car. Is definitely not worth it. You're definitely not going to finish that car. The chances are really, really slim. And that is the trap that Kevin also got into. This car has been sitting around at his work for some time until I convinced him to, get it here and get that thing back on the road. Because, to be honest, it doesn't take a lot to get this car finished. We have to do the brake lines, we have to do the water pump, we have to do the ball joints. There was also a bolt snapped off somewhere on the A-arm that has been fixed. We need to do the interior. There is a little bit of rust at the back we have to fix. And maybe the biggest thing is a leaking transmission. So we have to remove the transmission and fix that also. My goal was back then to get this car running again, that he had fun again in this car. And then we can do all kinds of fun stuff like turbocharging and stuff like that. But first of all, we have to get it back on the road. So that is a little bit of an intro to this video series. Too bad that I cannot get a conclusion to the series yet, because as you can see the car is still here. But at least hopefully these few videos will entertain you a little bit. So let's get started on this car. Well, that was the water pump, and as you can see, the bearings are all gone. So we're glad that we replaced it. We only thought it was just a little bit of a wobble in the pump itself, but the bearings are just completely gone. So I think we get a couple of horsepower back with this job. So yeah, the only thing we had to do was cut off this pin. This pin was just a bit longer than the old one. But then again, not that bad. Up to the next job. And so we're back with the Alfa 75. Kevin is right now making the brake lines. Most of them are already done. The only thing we need to do is from the front to the back. But because we have to, remove the gearbox to fix that massive leak. And the Alfa is spitting all his pasta sauce all over the floor of my beautiful concrete floor. Don't you feel any shame in that?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Huh?
I will clean it for you.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, he says that now, and I have it on camera, but he probably won't do it. But all jokes aside, one of the things Kevin wants to do with his car is lowering it, like most of us, of course, do with the cars. But this car is a little bit different. At the front it uses torsion bars instead of springs or coils or any other kind of suspension you can think of. It is really uncommon. I only know a couple of cars that had them in the past, like the first generation CRX, the Honda CRX has that. Also, I believe one of the first generations of Accords, well, it's almost the same platform, so it's pretty normal to have, of course, that suspension stuff. I believe that this is the only generation of cars that Alfa produced that uses this system, because it shares the platform with the GTV, I believe, and
90.
The 90,
the
Giulia, and after that, I think even the Italians concluded that this is not the way to go. So they changed it back to, the regular springs. At least that is what I know. It is a little bit tricky to get those things out of there, and because of course rust is always an issue and they're under tension. So what we need to do is we need to remove the lower A-arm, or at least let it to rest. And also we need to change the ball joint. Kevin already removed the nut in the past, so that helps us a little bit, but we need to replace it anyway because it's just gone. Kevin did already remove the brake calipers some years ago and painted it red, of course, for the extra speed points, but also refurbished them, some new I believe some new seals and stuff, everything went in there. Seals. So, of course, they have been laying around for a little while, so we definitely need to check them again, just to be sure. But now we're going to start on the removing of at least the A-arm, because that A-hole over there snapped the bolt off of this of the shock. So this one is already gone. It's of course easy to break stuff, at least for removing, but to putting it back together, it's really going to be a nightmare. So I don't know how to do this yet, but we will figure that out when it's off. And yeah, that's it for now, I believe. Okay. We leave the stabilizer in for the moment. I cannot get it off without grinding or cutting this thing. So I have to cut it and then we have to order some new ones. But probably the other side will also need replacing. So we have to order a set of those. No. Fortunately, those things are not that expensive. But the arm is now relaxed. At least at as relaxed position as possible. Now we have to try to get that torsion bar off. That's going to be a really big pain. Believe me, that's something you definitely don't want to do. But we have to do it, and of course when we have them removed, we definitely make sure that we grease them up really well for maybe sometime in the future when we have to drop it a little bit more, or maybe get back to stock, who knows. Well, here we have that torsion bar, and it's all the way sitting to the front of the car, all the way over there. So there are splines. There are splines right here, and of course right here. And at the back there is a cap, just like this. You can just pry it off, and I just put a lot of penetration fluid in there for at least a day or so, and that's probably even not long enough. But oh well, let's have a try. And what I'm going to use is just a M10 bolt with some washers and an even bigger washer at that. And you can just screw it in like so. We cannot get it out of there with these washers in place. We have to make something like a cup or something. But we can at least get it started, because if we get it started and at least it's loose, and well, that's the whole problem we have with this thing. I've got a really bad feeling. It feels like that the nut I'm using is already stripping. So I do think I have to get some new wider nuts and maybe some better quality bolts. I don't think we're able to get it out with this one. Well, let's have a look at Kevin's handiwork.
My handiwork?
Yeah, I see hands and I see work, so it's handiwork.
Everything you taught me?
Well, I just made a video about it, so I'm pretty sick about making brake lines.
Starting to look like it.
Ooh, shiny parts. For what car will that be? Ooh. Let's try to make him nervous.
Don't look at my work.
How many people will yell in the description, "You're doing it wrong"?
I'm just an apprentice. Leave me alone.
That's just your brakes. And brakes are for pussies, so
We don't do braking, do we?
no. But he also got some new seats for his car. Those are really a nice find. These are some old style OMP seats in really nice condition. But of course, it doesn't fit the style of that Italian banquette thing.
Italian stallion.
Hey, don't mess with Mr. Stallone, eh?
Real Italian.
So he got his bucket seats from from, I believe, some marketplace on Facebook, really cheap, and he want to put it, of course, in that Italian spaghettio thingy, and but I think that they look much better, of course, in my Corolla.
In your dreams, man.
Well, it has now a position of someone who is riding a Honda Civic. So, I think that's a much better look for the seats. I think they cannot mentally handle to be put in a Alfa 75. What do you think?
No.
It's just abuse. It's seat abuse.
No. Well, I do what I want anyway, so.
Yeah, but you have to listen to the internet.
No. No, really?
Yeah, you have to listen to the internet.
I won't. No.
Because internet knows all.
Really?
Yeah.
Everything is on the internet?
Everything is on the internet. So I know what you did last summer.
No. Don't put that claims on me, man. My girlfriend's watching this.
Your girlfriend? You mean your left or your right hand? Or, No, he's got a nice, sweet girlfriend. The only thing is, like we call it, he's under the plug. Or the girlfriend has his thumb straight on his head. That's because he's wearing a cap. Because if he removes it, there's just one landing zone of that thumb there.
I won't reveal my bald spot.
Yeah, your big bald spot. Are you done yet?
Almost.
Are you done yet?
I'm a little bit...
Are you done yet?
I'm a precision nerd, you know that.
Are you done yet?
Well...
Are you done yet?
Now I am. Almost.
Those two lines are the lines for the back?
Yes.
Okay.
From the divider to the calipers.
Did you already bought some new brake hoses?
I put an order in.
Okay. Well,
they will arrive.
Kevin decided to not use the old brake hoses, so that's a good thing. But he also ordered some new braided brake hoses, so that's even better. Of course, it's all going off the budget, but these ones were pretty inexpensive. That's because no one wants an Alfa 75, so they're all old stock, of course.
Always hating on the Alfa, man. Always hating.
It's a piece of shit.
No. It can hear you.
Yeah, I hope it commits suicide.
No.
Right in my garage.
No.
So the next day I will come here. There he's hanging on a big rope or a chain or something. It is the next day, and Kevin isn't here right now, so we can't mock him. So that's a bit of a shame. But I wanted to do something else today, but because we are still working on that torsion bar, I just wanted to spray it in with some lube and make a little bit of a new tool. So I put it in there and I was wrenching it and it came loose. So now that thing is loose, I want to remove that whole bar. Because the car, of course, is now sitting on the bridge like a limping duck. I want to remove this car as soon as possible from my 4-post lift. Because I cannot, of course, put any other car on it. So... not that we can remove the car from the 4-post lift, because one of the capacitors of the engine or of the motor on the 4-post lift just shit itself. So it is stuck in here. But let me get this going and well, hopefully we can at least finish this side today. Always wear gloves when working on Italian cars. You don't want to get some fancy exotic disease from it. Yeah, I know, I love to mock this car. But as you can see, it will be moving if I tighten this up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make some marks on the splines so that we know for sure that it's going in the same way as it came out, minus 2 tooths at the front. At least that's what Kevin said, that I had to move these ones 2 teeth upward. So that's about, I thought he said 3 centimeters, 3.5 centimeters, or was it something more? Something like 4. Well, I don't remember anymore. I just do what the boss orders, so let's do that. Okay, that's as far as it can go, because it's now just completely against this block. So I have to remove it and, well, figure something else out. At least let me mark this one the right way. So maybe like a socket, something like this should do. The only problem is that I don't know if my bolt is long enough. I think this will work. It's a makeshift bushing between it, or just a big wrench in this case. Maybe we push it back a little bit more. Well, at least we can now get the front arm off. There are probably some nuts on the other side. So let's send Kevin a picture. Did I already said that this thing is heavy, and I mean really heavy. Broken off bolts is never funny and something I rather not do, but you have to do it sometimes, and in this case we're here a little bit of luck. If I'm unable to drill it out straight, that's most likely to happen. What we can do is probably fix it with a helicoil, and if we cannot fix it with a helicoil, what we then do is just drill it through and make a nut, or I will make something that goes in here and that has the thread in there. So it isn't too challenging in this case. But of course I'm going to try to save it as it is. Well, the drill bit snapped off, so we make a bit of a mess out of it. So let's try to drill it from the other side with a smaller drill bit. Well, I do think I'm going to insert some helicoils in there. Maybe just a tad wider or bigger screw. So let's see what I can get away with. These thread repair kits were really expensive back in the day. But nowadays you can get them pretty cheap. Of course, not the main brands, but if it works, it works. Well, this is the thickest bolt I can get to use, and I think it's the same that is already in here. So we're a bit out of luck there. But I think I can get a good thread in there with the use, of course, of the thread repair kit. Thread repair kits have special size of drill bits, so be careful with them. Those can be pretty expensive to replace. So what I do is drill it to the biggest size, in this case 10, because I believe this is a 10.4. So I drill it up to 10 and do the rest with, well, this more expensive drill. Bollocks. I screwed up. I made the hole for the M10 repair in place instead of the M8. Let me see how I'm going to fix this. So I had my cup of coffee and I do know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a replacement thread bolt thing. So what I'm going to do is I have here a piece of an old shock. This is just perfect, and I'm going to turn it down so it sits flush in here and drill a hole in there and tap some new threads in there so we can use it as a, well, basically a nut. It's never wrong to make mistakes. The wrong thing you can do is not give it a proper solution. And I do think that this is a proper solution. I still don't have a separation tool, so I have to do it with a bandsaw. So this is a nice little slug. And it's sitting really nicely here in that groove. So only thing we have to do is drill a hole, tap some new threads in there, and then we have our, well, our slug. And what I also could have done or could do is maybe just a small weld or maybe some tack welds right here. I know this is cast iron, it's not the best thing to weld to, but it doesn't have to hold any weight or anything, just, well, it has to sit there. Normally I would make a little bit of a flat spot on the top, it's just easier to drill through. I don't have a milling machine, and of course I could set up this thing in the tool holder and then with the end mill in the chuck and then do it like so. But of course I don't have any end mills. So we're going to try to drill a straight hole in a round piece of stock, and that is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Well, that doesn't look too bad. I decided to weld it in its place just with 2 tacks on both ends. Like I said before, it doesn't have to hold anything, just to keep this thing in place, so it doesn't have to be strong. I already removed that last piece of the stabilizer link, so now all we have to do is remove this ball joint, and it should not be that complicated. There is just a nut here that we have to take off, and probably if we just whack it with a big mallet, it just drops right out. Hopefully I'm right and we can just tap it out of there. The easiest thing to do is of course just take the new one and drop it on the ground. And as you can see, it's just a conical shape with some teeth right here, and probably this is a alignment marking. So I do think maybe a couple of taps just right here, maybe some little bit more leverage. It looks like it's moving. There it goes. There are markings on the arm itself, and I do think it has to point outwards. But let's check the owner's manual just to be sure, or the factory manual. Maybe something is written in the instructions of the kit. I don't think so. Nope. I'm going to look it up in the service manual. Sometimes you can turn these and then you can adjust camber, but if I have a look at this one, it is just all the way around even, so I don't think it's a problem to fit it in any direction as you want it. There are ball joints that just move in one direction, and then it's really important to get the orientation right, but in this case it moves all the way around evenly, so it probably doesn't matter. But I think it's having to point just straight outwards, and that is what I'm going to do. Instead of wanking it all in there, I think I'm going to use the press to, well, get it in its place. And again, I found a good reason to use those old bearings. This is a nice cup that just goes right on top of it, and just a couple of these bigger washers, and we can just press it down now. Stuff like this, I'm always a hand short. So now it's time to put back the arm. Before lining up the splines, we're just putting it in there, and then I figure out how to do it by ourselves to get that torsion bar back in its place. This is probably a job you don't want to do by yourself. Well, let's try it like this. Yeah, that's 2 splines. Oh, that is one spline. Does it even have to be higher than that? Oh well, the boss says so, so we are going to make it a spline higher. Well, that's two at least. It's just a little bit on the tension, so hopefully I can get it in a little bit more. Yeah, two splines. That's a lot. That's no way near 4.5 centimeters. That's probably more like 6 or something. Did you know what I realized just now? There is just no mechanical screw or bolt or something that held this thing in place. Just the friction of the load. It's kind of scary. Well, tack welding it into place didn't help. So, oh well. So the shocks are in now. Of course I need to do the other side as well, and we still need to install some new uplinks for the sway bars, but those have to be ordered. But for now I'm just going to put back the wheel so I can set it on the ground, and if the capacitor comes I can roll this piece of pasta out of here. I'm really curious how low the car will sit right now. Of course we have to do the other side to get a better impression, but I do think it is a lot. Well, the tire is nicely tucked in. It's a bit too low for my taste, but there is a lot of room left in there. So let's have a look at the other side, just for comparison, of course. Well, that is a lot lower. I think one teeth would be enough, but oh well.